Okay, so I would now like to invite the participants of the panel. Please welcome Francois, who I introduced. I would like to welcome Fernando Garibay. Fernando is a record producer, songwriter, DJ, academic and Polymath, and the musical director. He's worked with some of the world's biggest names, including Lady Gaga, U2, Whitney Houston, Britney Spears, Enrique Iglesias, Bruno Mars, Sia, Kylie Minogue, Shakira, and many more. He's a lecturer at Harvard University, MIT, Stanford, and many more. He's a keynote speaker and has been at the World Economic Forum Young Global in Davos as a keynote speaker, also in the Future Blockchain Summit, just returned from London from the AI Summit, and he's a founder of the Garibay Institute, the first research and development center focused on art, creativity, and entertainment, and music as an instrument for soft power, cultural identity, and public diplomacy. I would like to, you can, please welcome Fernando. Francois? You can sit first. You can sit first. You can sit first. Yes. You're first, Fernando. After yes, and then I would like yes, Izhar Ashdot. He's a leading Israeli musician in Israel and international music industry for over 30 years. Obviously founded the band Tislam, which became the most successful band in Israel, and composed most of the songs and co-produced Tislam. He's a producer, writing for top Israeli artists, many gold and platinum albums. One of Izhar's career's peak was his work with Ofra Chaza, producing Imnin Alu, which reached #1 in many European countries. He's also a singer-songwriter that released many successful solo albums, and Izhar is known in Israel as a musical technical guru. In 2023, he received a Lifetime Achievement Award from Acum. Please welcome, yes, Izhar. Thank you very much for coming. Ivri Leader is one of the most successful Israeli musicians of the generation. He sold million copies of his albums. He's the only artist chosen by Coca-Cola to perform at the Coca-Cola Summer Village, and worked with Rita, with Marina Maximilian, with Ninette Tayeb, Idan Reichel, Gilad Segev, Natan Goshen, and many others. He's also a composer for and soundtracks for films, for example, The Babel. Yossi and Jagger is well famous. He's also considered a fashion icon with a global flair. And he also does he's been a judge at the X Factor and The Voice, and he's into technology for many, many years, and currently involved in a few startups dealing with AI. Ivri, thanks very much for coming, and I would like to present Professor Shlomit Yanisky-Ravid. Professor Shlomit Yanisky-Ravid is an authority, a world authority on IP and AI. She's been described by Judge Catherine Forrest as the foremost thinker on AI and copyright. She has been teaching at Fordham Law School since 2012. She's currently a research fellow at the University of Yale and Honor Academic College, the founder of the Shalom Comparative Research Institute. She won awards and scholarship for publication, including the visionary article Generating Rembrandt, and her influence extends to top academic institutions. She's part of the project currently trying to recognize AI system Dabos as an inventor in the US and copyright with Lawrence Lessing of Harvard and the other team. Please welcome on stage the panel. Okay, so Francois, let's start with you. I think you were responsible for releasing the first pop song that created by AI, Daddy's Car and Hello World back in 2016. That's 8 years ago. Can you just briefly summarize how do you see the developments of music creation using AI since then?
Yes. So what happened, so 8 years ago is really prehistory. I mean, it's before Neanderthal. It's really very old now. But at that time, what we used to do was to focus on quite specific problems, like Beatles from the late period, Bach, chorales, and stuff like this. And we had technologies which were quite powerful, but not quite as powerful as today. And what has happened, to summarize, that today we have algorithms which are really more powerful in a very simple sense. They are more powerful because they are better at capturing properties of the training sets, basically, and they are better at replicating these properties, and they're better at predicting what's the next note, what's the next chord, or whatever. But at the same time, people have been interested in problems which are much less specific, which are like much larger. If you use, for instance, Udio or Suno or whatever, you can type almost any prompt in any language with any word. So it's able to generate really a lot of stuff. So we used to be like very deep and quite shallow like this, and now we are very, very like the breadth is incredible. But the depth is I think less, you know. So we went, if I can try to do a diagram with my hands, from this to this. Is it better? I mean, from a scientific viewpoint, yes, it is better, because we always look for more general algorithms. We always look for universal, approaches. And in research, in science, we don't like solutions which are too specific. So yes, it's better in terms of science. Is it better in terms of music? No, I don't think so. I mean, but it's not something that I can, blame on the researchers, especially because I'm also involved. But it's like this, So we have gained in generative, we have lost in the details. This is what I can say.
Speaking about creativity, Fernando, I would like to ask you, you have worked with some of the biggest artists in the world. What is creativity in your eyes? Are you born with it, or is it something learned? I mean, computers have learned to actually beat humans in chess in '97, in Go, Dota, and now in music. I wonder what makes us human. Is there something that the computer can never replicate? Is there something that is uniquely human?
No, absolutely not. So let's just break a few norms and understandings of what creativity. So creativity essentially, when I used to talk about this before AI was available for the public, right? Especially in music. And I was describing a lecture on creativity being organic and something that humans have valued through the history of time, and how we found our way, evolutionary speaking, and survived our way through the post-industrial revolution and onwards and onwards. Simply put, creativity is our ability to create. But as of December 2023, we had to make an addendum to that. It is any synthetic ability to create. So when we look at creativity, essentially how does human creativity work? We'll get into this in the next talk, but creativity essentially comes from limbic drive, emotions that are synthesized into a creative output. Essentially, that's the creative side of in the arts, in music, and storytelling. There are different modalities of creativity. There's business creativity, there's academic creativity, there's different, essentially, expressions of creativity. But what's so interesting for me now and so exciting is that there is a new generation of synthetic creativity. And looking at synthetic creativity, and especially in the inference side, ChatGPTs of the world and generative world of AI, we can now deliver and lower the barrier to entry to anyone using these instruments to be more creative themselves. So essentially, we're looking at a marriage of organic and synthetic creativity for our next evolution of what creativity will mean for the rest of time.
And how do you see the impact of AI on the creative process of making music? Will it enhance creativity? Will it stifle it?
I think that we're going to see, so I like to answer questions from a longitudinal space over time. And what I can predict is at least the next 6 months, Let's look at some numbers. So the average upload in music on Spotify globally, it's not public information, but I'm going to safely guess it's at 100,000 a day, right? As you're going to see later, we're going to generate content, songs that are, I would say, moving at about 5 seconds to 15 seconds, depending on your Wi-Fi. So what does that look like for productivity, right? What does that look like and how we see expression? Now, quality is the other question versus accessibility, right? The more quicker you make it, the less quality you would get, right? And also the training data side would matter a lot, right? Where is this data coming from, and how is it being trained? Accessibility to this data. Are we training with the right access points? Global music. So that's going to matter. But so how we're doing it now is we're being very tactical on highlighting what is the best of the human and learning how to prompt ourselves, which you'll experience that later, and then also looking at what these platforms excel at. It's excelling at the speed of innovation, ideation. It's not excelling the speed of culture.
Okay. We are going to present later the same method that you worked with Lady Gaga will be with one of the volunteers here, so wait for that. Speaking about this, Izhar, I want to ask you, you've been creating music and was highly involved with the technology for the last, I think, 30 years. Some say that AI is the biggest change in the last 100 or even 500 years. How do you see the significant impact on musicians?
Well, first I can you turn up the monitor, please, Mr. Soundman, so we can hear ourselves. As a musician, I use AI these days more as a tool, less than a game changer. The tools that are made with AI, or at least we think are made with AI, that are available to us professional musicians, are they help us do things that were more difficult to do before, or pretty impossible, like separating mixes. I remember I was 16 when the Beatles released their Live at Shea Stadium. In the late 70s, George Martin worked on the Beatles recording a Live at Shea Stadium. And I remember reading about using, analog equalizers and trying to separate things and make it sound better. Today, it would be so easy to do. And also we use AI to mimic old gear. It's more of a helping tool these days. It's not a game changer yet, because even when using AI to compose music or to write songs, to make it something that would excite people, you have to reach in and work with it and choose and hunt for the good parts. But it's the state of the art now. In 5 years or 2 weeks, things will change. That's the pace.
That's what they're saying. I mean, this is the dumbest stage that we're at. Try to imagine what would happen in the next 2, 3, 5, 7, 10 years. But do you think that, how do you see the impact in terms of, are there any musical genres that cannot be or will be affected, more or less affected? Is there a type of music that AI will never be able to replace, specific?
I don't know. I think the big question is how the young generation will use these tools. Because, many times new tools were invented, like remember Autotune 25 years ago, and then some engineer tweaked it all the way and created the share effect, which was not something that the designers of Autotune thought it would be used. And then, not only technically it was inventive and created a new sound, also people like Kanye West or T-Pain started making music that was emotional, and the Autotune made it more emotional. So with AI, you're talking about genres. I think let's think about genres that don't exist yet. How young people in 5 years will produce music with AI that would sound like nothing we know now.
Okay. Speaking about this generation, Ivri, how can the music industry prepare and adapt to the changes expected from the generative AI revolution? Lots more music will be created. I know, for example, today, 34 millions of photos are created each day. 34 million. In my telephone, most of the photos are AI generated already. In music, we heard 100,000. That's not AI. I don't have the number about the AI generated. But, I mean, when lots more music is created, how can the artist get the attention of the public and of the media?
Well, I think all over history, technology really changed the way the music industry works, and also then the way the artist works. From the invention of LP, we changed the way people created and started creating certain things, to things like autotune, or and then streaming, of course. It changed the way we work. It's changed our concept of, I went through that, like the change from, I started making music in the 90s, so of course we made albums. Then for the last 10 years, it completely changed, and it changed the way we perceive our craft, in a way. So I think, of course, this new, very big change and very new technology that's adopting all the time and changing will influence the way we make music, and of course also the way the industry is publishing music. And but I think part of what's good about it is that it's making us think about creativity, about music, about art. What exactly does it mean? What exactly does it mean writing a song, writing a good song? What is a good song? Like, how do I touch people? What makes what I do touch people? When the machine will be able to do that, if it will be able to do that. And I think for me that's very interesting, and working with AI makes it very clear. Like, there's something about it which is interesting. As an artist, yes, of course I'm worried about the amount. Of course today it's much harder. We just discussed it, how hard it is these days to get attention. Everybody's fighting for attention, right? And it becomes harder and harder. You don't have radio stations anymore. You don't, the game changed, and that's a big thing. So if humans create so many songs each day and upload them to the general community of humans, and then if we can create so much new art and upload it, and then it's there, the landscape will be even harder to navigate. And that's, I think, for artists, I think it's a scary moment, right? But then there's the question, is it as good, or is it something that, I heard this one guy says that his kids can actually understand if something is AI generated or not 100% of the time right now. So will AI be able to just be a helping tool for us, or actually replace what we can do in the same way and quality that we can do those things? Maybe we're all just waiting for AGI, and then we're done.
Yeah, AGI, the general AI, basically. Let's talk about the law. Shlomit, copyright law, which was created 300 years ago, is based on the understanding of a human author. But who should own the rights to works created by the machine, by the author? What is the approach in the US regarding the AI-generated works, and what is the criticism, if there is, of this approach?
Thank you for having me. I think it's really important and very complicated challenge to decide upon that. For the record, I'm part of the team that represent Doubles. Doubles is an AI system that create IP copyrightable inventions and paintings. And we are in the US court, where is our claim up to the Supreme Court, and now we are waiting for another appeal. So our main argument is that the AI itself is the author, is the creator, but the owner is the one who made the major contribution to the output. And US Copyright Office and US Patent Office holds a totally different approach, and their approach is that anything that has been done with AI, any generated work that was done with, that was created, that was generated with AI, is neither copyrightable nor patentable. It means you are losing all the rights. And I think, I mean, our claim is this approach is really dangerous. It's dangerous for the creators because you cannot really differentiate between the input of creators like Ivri and others, and between the input of an AI. And we have decisions saying wherever the AI part is being taken into the output, so there is no copyright at all. Why it is so risky? It's risky because the industry is heavily using AI. It's heavily based on AI. Like think about software industry and think about the creation, the music industry. Think about movie industry. And the fact that they are losing the right is really a dangerous thing to do. And also, like if we are thinking about what's the argument that the US Copyright Office and other were based their decision, it's like the monkey selfie case, like taking a law that was enacted hundreds of years ago, and it didn't even envision the existence in the horizon of an AI system. So taking a case about a monkey that took a selfie and saying, so the monkey has no copyright, and therefore AI won't have any copyright, I think it's really a ridiculous, in a way, argument. On the other hand, we have the European approach, which I can identify more, and we can see in UK, in Ireland, in New Zealand, and other countries, they have a specific copyright law saying that if someone has an author, he or she, made a major contribution to the output, so the one who made the major contribution will be the owner. So we are not losing the right entirely. We are not invalidated the use of AI. And just saying one more word about China. So we got like 3 court decisions recently in China taking the same approach as the European approach and saying if you did a prompt and you changed the prompt many times and you really create something like the human contribution was significantly mentioned and proved, so you'll get the right. And I think China, in a way, we don't like to take China as an example, but their copyright law is very similar to the Israeli copyright law. And they did interpret the law as having someone getting ownership over things that, words that were generated by AI.
Thank you. Fernando, on the one hand, technological developments contribute to the democratization of creation. Anyone can become an artist, basically. You don't need to know how to program. You don't need to know how to play an instrument. Anyone can basically be a filmmaker, a musician, a photographer using a phone in the pocket. You have like a Pixar studio in your pocket. Does the creation process differ between the musician who practice 8 hours a day and a creation generated in seconds by the machine using a prompt? How would you describe this new creativity? And should we, as a society, should encourage human creativity?
Well, I'd like to double down on that comment. It's really interesting. The idea of authorship and defining it European way as the threshold model, right? I think humans will always gravitate towards this aspect of what they create is part of their identity. And I think that us as creatives have to tackle this identity question immediately, unlike any other community or discipline. So our output as creatives, as artists, has always been tied to identity. And so, in other words, let's say I'm a singer and I've spent 20 years developing this skill to become an extraordinary performer and singer, then it's a natural human essence to identify as a singer. Now, I think in order to tackle the authorship problem and the creative, defining human creativity, I think we must decouple that creativity is no longer human. It's no longer a thing that humans do, only humans do. Creativity is everything that is created.
Like, I would say in order to be a creator, do you need to be conscious?
I'm not sure.
No,
Do
so
you focus
it's-
on the
no, it's a-
output or in the input?
I don't know,
That's
like
exactly-
even
so-
in front of the law, do you,
So, yeah, those terms are being, so that's why so this is a great point, is we're all struggling with defining what authorship is in its current state, all right? We're all struggling to defining what is human at what line does it become synthetic, and where is the line, and what line is organic. Whenever these topic points come down to dichotomies, we look at spectrums, which is the second state of problem solving, right? So that's the European model. So they're looking at a spectrum. At what point of inputs allow you to be qualified as the author? So the law will always look at frameworks that have been passed through a model of precedent, right? You establish precedent, a court case, especially in the Western world, that proves out what the rest of the world usually will follow. And right now you have two models, which is really interesting. I think we're at the spectrum state of understanding what authorship is. That it is a combination of multiple factors, that you own that. But I digressed, but essentially it's an important topic point I think needs to be touched and doubled down on.
I'd like to comment on creativity because, and what you said, consciousness, I believe that AI will reach AGI and probably reach superintelligence someday, and will be able to to create. But for the time being, and we can, I'm not sure we can see that far, for the time being, when everything is based on prompts, everything is based on human input, it reminds me, you know, when drum machines started in the 80s, and I remember one of the country's best drummers came to me because I was known as a technologist and using machines for music, and he said to me, you know, those machines will never replace us. And I told him, they will never replace you because you're an excellent, inventive drummer, but the mediocre ones should worry. And what we see now, when prompting is now a profession, and so we'll see kids who are amazing prompters with musical AI, and will make much better. I mean, it's true that when machines came to the world in the music industry in the 1980s, anyone could make music. But the people who had the talent and were willing to learn and study those machines and make something good out of them made better music.
yeah, but
Same
maybe
with
now
AI.
maybe now it's a completely different talent. The talent.
It's still a talent. It's still a talent.
I mean, like maybe the next down the line, maybe the next best songwriter is not a musician, because musicians, you know, I'm not good at describing music, right? I'm good at making music, I think.
Yeah,
but
your son
maybe the journalist, you know, a music journalist that can write beautiful.
Your son will be a musical talent. In
Yeah, but it's not
20
about musical talent anymore.
It will be. It is, because he'll know how to decipher. Say, when you program a drum pattern, did anybody teach you that at school? Did anybody learn that?
Yeah, but that's about music.
That's going to be about music too.
So there is
So
place
I think
for
if I know
everyone,
how
This is great.
I
This is
think.
great. No, because essentially this is, again, it's a proxy to what's going on right now. It's identity question, right? It's back to what is a musician? Well, it really is a process of ultimately, are you creating something, right? And how we create that is going to change over time. And then how much of our input is required to create exactly what we want, it's going to change over time. So we're heading to the inevitable place where this question won't matter so much as is what is the human aspect of what we're doing and what is the synthetic aspect of how it's contributing to our lives.
It's an evolution.
Yeah, like I'm a horrible painter,
I would
right? I
agree.
come from a family of painters. I'm a horrible painter. I just don't have this talent in my brain and my hand. They don't work in a good way, right? But I think I'm an amazing painter. If I only had this thing, right? I would be like a really, really good painter. I just don't have this talent. So I think once I can describe to a machine that's a really good painter, I can describe my dreams about painting to this machine. You know, she will wow. She will, wow, it's already a she. She will create something beautiful. right?
Of course.
But
does that make you a painter?
it does that make me a painter?
It does.
It does? I don't know.
Yeah, definitely.
Like,
But
Well,
I
I'm not
think
very
we
sure.
agree that there is
Are you a
like
good drummer?
one word
Are you a
is
good drummer?
enough.
I'm a horrible.
I'm a horrible drummer.
Me too.
But I have great drum ideas, and drum machines made me a great drummer.
Yeah, the question if that's, I think that's like 100 steps forward.
It's all moving very fast these days, of course.
Let's
Yeah.
say,
No,
Agree
even in
that
the
there is one
question,
word
like,
is
who's
enough
the-
for all of us. Like there will be music that will be generated by AI and music that will be generated by artists. The same as painting and other things, and maybe it will be cheaper. I think we discussed it earlier. It will be cheaper to buy or to purchase music that were generated by machine. And I think, creators are not losing their spot. It just changed. You know, when like the camera was invented, so all the art style have been changed. Like you become more surrealist, and you see Picasso and Dali and all the others. So I think music will be changed by this combination
Definitely,
of AI.
and it's not any of us. It's the next generation. who's
yeah,
gonna make that
that's what I
change.
wanted to ask about the next gen, because art basically is a communication, basically, and music even more so. It's the language beyond language, basically. And I wonder, basically, in the near future, we will go to see performances by ChatGPT at the Barbie or in Wembley?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
so?
Here's why. Well, if we look at what's happening in Japan with pop stars, right? So anime then evolved into artificial pop stars. So it works. It connects. And it's watch future generations. They're telling you what they want, right? Again, you're right. It is future generations, but actually we are inspiring the future generations with the tech that we're building and collaborating, and our training data they used, right, through our history of making pop music, right, or music in general. I think it comes down to watching next generation and the adaptation rate of next generation, and also the satiation aspect of what they get out of this experience. Now, so it comes down to an additional perspective, which is evolutionary. COVID has taught us that we can't, we still need to be in front of each other to communicate on a deeper level, right? Zoom is a low bandwidth to communication, right?
So do you believe that Lady Gaga will carry on perform, or would it be some sort of an avatar?
I won't comment on her, but I'll say, I will say that, we were cloning her voice, 7, 8 years ago without her knowing. Don't tell her that. But we never released any music from it because, again, the shock of that experience, decoupling the artificial experience, the society wasn't ready. Now they have to be ready because this is now part of our daily activity.
Yeah, we have to conclude soon, but there's something dramatic and quite substantial that I'd like to touch, the impact of the concept of death, of AI. AI basically contributes to a very dramatic change. It has changed the concept of death, and we just came across a new song of the Beatles that came out 40 years after John Lennon has been dead. How is it going to change the music industry? Are we going to see the 27 Club, like new albums by, Kurt Cobain and Amy Winehouse and David Bowie and maybe Bach?
No, is it by them? That's the big question. Like, if it's his voice and he's writing, is it his?
I mean, let's ask a question. Let's define a few markers here. Let's frame this out. So one, it's what I call the emotional Turing test. Was the music from the Beatles that was created, and I heard it, did it move your heart and soul as a Beatles fan? Did it?
Well, I think what I saw before,
Yeah.
the violin,
Yeah.
is quite amazing.
It's quite amazing, right? So was it a hit, though?
It was just released like a few
No,
weeks ago.
it was, yeah, it wasn't a hit. It didn't chart #1. So this is an interesting point because then you're going to ask so if we look at a hit being success, that means, charting or like registering as the world really listening to it repeatedly. Well, there's another variable to this, is the economics of it, right? So the economics of the marketing, distribution, strategy, all that matter, and distribution of this. So that's the other variant to the success of the content that you're going to witness that's artificial. When you look at artificial virtual artists, is it connecting? Yes, it's connecting. Is it passing the emotional Turing test? My kids think so. right? It moves them emotionally. Well, then what's going to determine the other variable of their success? Economic, right? And the fourth variable to this, sorry to complicate it, but it's evolutionary. Our kids are showing us that evolutionary, we're prepared to embrace artificial as passing our emotional Turing test.
Yeah.
I just want to mention that when I saw ABBA Avatar in London, so it was amazing. I felt like I'm seeing them, and I wish I could see, Tislam and Ivri like all over, and just
We're
waiting.
still performing ourselves.
Yeah.
No, but think about you can have like hundreds of concerts.
I still think there's a huge difference. I think live performances are still completely different. I think it's a whole different ballgame. And even though you enjoyed the ABBA concert, which I'm sure was amazing, from a technology point of view, or you really enjoyed yourself, it's almost like watching a movie in a way, like a really nice one, maybe like 3D, blah, blah. But it's not.
I think you felt different.
Actually, I felt different.
No,
I felt like I'm back in my youth.
No, but that's your
enjoying the
experience
music
about something like you.
and having the emotions.
Of course you did. You also in a movie you will have great emotions, but still it's not the same
Experience.
type of connection, artistic connection. I'm not judging. Maybe it's great. Like I'm not judging the actual thing. I'm just saying it's not on the same realm. It's not the same thing. It's a different experience altogether.
Yeah.
It's not a live
I think there is
concert of an
the
artist.
creator point of view and the audience.
I'd like
It's
to,
beautiful.
to quote you on
I think it's
Just
great.
in one sentence, because we...
it's a spectrum, as you were saying, because if you go to, let's say you go to a Taylor Swift show in a 100,000 capacity stadium, and most of the backing tracks are not live. She sometimes sings live. Second.
You're a Dave Grohl fan that you're saying it now?
I saw Dave. Yeah. But I'm not saying it's okay. It's legit what she does. But on the spectrum between organic and synthetic, she's already halfway there, because you see something. I mean, she's on stage, but she's very far. You see her on the screens, on the big screens, and this whole thing is semi-synthetic already. You know she's there because you believe she's there. She could be.
But tell me why. Like,
I can tell you why exactly. Because it's an evolutionary aspect of how we became, why we sat around a fire pit throughout our history of humanity. We need each other. We need the conscious experience of sharing something together. We can watch a movie and you're here collectively.
It's also a physical experience.
Yeah. But there's also a generational bias to that answer, right? So because of how this classic generation of pop music has experienced the performer and audience relationship, is going to be different to the next generations. When you train a generation with a different perspective and developing their limbic structures to artificial performers, it's going to change, right?
Yeah, I can see them. Yeah,
The bandwidth of the generational bias of us experiencing a live artist performer is higher for this generation. I'm not so sure it's going to be higher for the next generation, but I do think that the collective of experience of doing something together is still going to be very valuable.
Yeah. Just some final questions because we're running out of time, but briefly, Shlomit, recently the EU AI Act, the world's first law regulating AI, was actually enacted. What is the impact of the EU AI Act on copyright and works created by AI?
So it's true, recently we got the first really kind of like act about AI that tried to regulate AI and the system themselves and the outcome, and the question is, how does this AI Act impact the IP industry, copyright, patent, and others? And there are a few things to take from that which are really important, but still there is a lot of uncertainty. One is the transparency. So I will mention only a few, because like hundreds of pages. So one is transparency. Like every work that will be generated by AI should be transparent, should mention that was done with AI, that was generated by AI. And I think it's complicated. It's because as we mentioned before, it's very difficult to differentiate between the put of a person and put of an AI. So what does it mean it was generated or done with an AI? The second thing is documentation. So it's not clear enough which document we have to to keep or to publish. I mean, it can be like a trade secret. I think they mean the data that was uploaded to the AI system, and here we still have the different approaches about the input from the US, which consider that data that we trained the AI with as fair use, whereas in Europe, it doesn't, they don't accept fair use as the American does. And I think the third thing is the responsibility. They say the software programmer and the user, they're responsible, they're accountable for misuse of these AI systems. And I think that's also very complicated and vague because you can see my multiplayer model that contribute to the AI, so you cannot really differentiate between different roles and different input that was made by different role takers into the final output. Okay. There are more, but I think these are the main things.
Okay. Francois, what skills and abilities do you believe that musicians will need to develop in an era where AI plays a central role in the industry?
Yeah, it's a hard question. I don't know. I'm very confused currently for two reasons related to your question. First of all, we make a lot of predictions and we forget one thing. It's that the history of AI has shown that all the predictions we do about AI, all of them are wrong. Either positive ones like, oh, we are going to solve this. Remember, well, you were not born, but in the 60s, automatic translation was going to be solved in 5 to 6 years, right? Or we are never going to be able to do this. Remember that ChatGPT that you know today, no one, even in AI, had predicted this. Even people like Yann Lequin themselves, they say they didn't believe in that. And so I know that we like to make predictions. I cannot refrain, but everything we say here, I think nothing is going to happen in that way. So that's first thing. And I don't know what will happen. The second thing is, I feel very old because I always thought that in order to produce a good song or an interesting object, or maybe like a nice table, or you have to work hard. Actually, you have to suffer. That's my education. And then, I mean, this thing there where things should be as easy as possible, and I can't figure out how millions of people clicking on buttons are going to create interesting stuff. I mean, I just don't believe in this. So I think, because if something is easy to do, of course it doesn't have any value, basically. So I think the skills, well, hard work, you know?
Thank you very much. Fernando, maybe you can predict, where are we going from here? Are we going to a transhuman future where basically we will collaborate with the machine? What does human 3.0 look like? Is it AGI, as Izhar mentioned? Or on the contrary, maybe we're going to go back, like Francois mentioned, you know, to the renaissance of the human creativity?
I think we're all looking for universal principles that repeat over time, right? And yeah, I'm going to refrain from making predictions, but I will say temporally, right? In the next 6 months, you're going to see a bunch of sludge, right? We call it sludge, right? And it's just a massive amount of people generating content, and it's not great. It doesn't connect, and you will see society become sensitive, more like our kids become more sensitive to what's synthetic. But we'll also see, I believe, humanity's consciousness rise. And so their tastes become a little bit more sensitive to something that's more organic, made by you, a real songwriter who was trained. So I think that's soon to happen. I think you're going to see that reflection. So the rate of adoption is going to mirror the rate of equally what is organic. And it'll be able to identify that. So I see that immediately happening pretty soon, and we're seeing evidence of that. The universal aspect that's always repeating is no matter how much we learn from the Industrial Revolution, that as things scale, we seek a higher order of being, and we find that art gives us that. So if it's made synthetically, driven by human needs and wants, described in an articulate way that comes from an experience, I think we're going to get there very soon.
Thanks very much. Final question I'd like to ask each one of you. Are you afraid of it? Are you afraid of AI? And one final sentence to summarize or recommend your thoughts. Francois, are you afraid? And
I'm not afraid because we don't need AI to make bad music. We are very good at that. So I'm not afraid of AI making bad music. I mean, there are lots of things I'm afraid of. I will not mention them, but no, I think AI is. I always hope that AI would be a way to help creators create more interesting stuff, or more audacious, more bold, more new. So, and I still believe in that, but I don't think it will be done without hard work.
Shlomit?
Yeah, I love the AI, its existence. It makes my life and my work so much easier and so much more efficient. I use it 24/7, and I think the first takers will stay, and the one who will, I mean, the more you're afraid, actually studies reveals that, they unfold, the more you're afraid from a system, the less you're prepared, the less you can take advantage of that. So don't be afraid, just use it, learn how to prompt it, and just use it efficiently and legally. And best of luck.
Ivri?
I always have this thought that the day that AI will write a really good song is the day that it's also gonna get rid of us. And then, no, because the reason for that is that I think we don't know how we create a good song. We don't know that. You know, I think I did a few times. I don't know how I did it. It's connected probably to the hard problem of consciousness, which, you know, we just don't know. You know, I can meditate for a month straight, but I will only understand that I don't understand, okay, which is a good understanding, but I will not see it, okay? And I think once, and this is why I think AI right now cannot write a good song, because those things come from a place that we don't understand, so we can't teach it. And if it will understand one day, then good luck to us, you know.
I can relate to that. You know, the song I played before the last summer was written by Max Catmore when he was 15 in 15 minutes. And that was the first song that we've released, basically. But you cannot replicate it. I mean, there's no formula. Everyone would have come and do that. And you cannot replicate it. So definitely. But I believe it relates to what Francois said before. It relates to authenticity and to a particular moment that you're actually creating from pain, from very authentic and sometimes from pain. Izhar?
No, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of any technological advances. I'm excited about it for the time as I can see it now, as I can see it as a way of expanding the color palette, my musical color palette. But I think we're missing a 20-year-old here on this panel. Somebody who would look at it differently, who would think of music differently. It's all different. I mean, you mentioned the Industrial Revolution. People, you know, the Luddites were breaking machines. I don't think anybody would go to OpenAI, to the Microsoft campus and break their computers. But we don't know. The future is more opaque than it ever was.
Thanks. Fernando?
Well, I think I successfully decoupled my identity from what I do, so I'm perfectly okay with it. My kids are even more okay with it. My son is 6, 7, just turned 7, and he DJs during his lunchtime at school, and he makes his songs on Suno and Udio over the weekend. Don't sue him.
Right. Thanks very, very much to our distinguished panelists. Thank you very, very much. Okay. All right.